James, it's amazing to have you on the show. Okay, let's jump right in. So you're currently at Netflix, and I do want to come back to that. But today's case study is really about your time at Disney. So for the first segment of our show, we're going to jump into the case study segment where we're talking all about how you helped create the first true customer loyalty program really for the whole entertainment / streaming industry. So, and what's really fascinating about your story is that Disney has one of the strongest brands in the world, right? Like massive emotional affinity. I feel like being like a Disney person has been a phrase that I've heard nearly my entire life. So, I mean, we're talking like generational fandom. So I guess like even with all of that, streaming still created churn behavior, which is just what's so interesting here. So take us back to the moment when, think back to your time at Disney. What was happening with Disney Plus when you realized loyalty had become a much bigger business conversation?
Yeah, definitely. So one, we love a Disney adult. That's key, but we'll talk a little bit more about some of those audiences. I think before jumping into why loyalty as a business objective was so important, I think it's important to set the stage of just the explosion of SVOD or streaming video on demand services in general, and what that landscape looked like. Because we have all heard the term streaming wars, and that really kind of changed the trajectory of how we consume entertainment. So when we're thinking about these new business ventures around SVOD services, there was this major uncertainty from investors that required focus on growth, right? Who can get the most subscribers? And who can be the first to profitability, right? We needed to prove out the worth that this is an actual sustainable business venture for a lot of these entertainment studios as well. So when you think about monitoring customer churn, or when you hear churn, it's really those that are deciding to cancel the service, albeit many different reasons. There's involuntary churn, but primarily it's voluntary churn. You're making a decision to say, I want to cancel this service. And that was always there. That was always looked at as a KPI, but I would say it probably took a back seat. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of it was focused around growth and growing that share of pie and getting to profitability as quickly as possible. So I want to note that, again, these are general industry trends. I'm not isolating or calling out Disney specifically, but it's something that we monitor and we look at across the landscape. And again, it's not isolated to Disney Plus per se, but as growth slowed, and some of these higher penetration markets like the US, or even after some of these companies decided to go global, growth started to slow. And we wanted to start looking at, how do we retain our subscribers? So you start thinking about all of these macroeconomic factors that are impacting consumers' wallets. You're looking at the many, many choices of SVOD services now with the introduction of HBO Max and Hulu, and I mean, you name it, right? I feel like there's so many direct-to-consumer streaming services now. You think about the content troughs where you have a big release and then maybe it goes quiet for a few months and then another big release. Those are all factors that play into what we call churn, especially in regulations in countries, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later. I'll double click into this, which is making it easy for people to cancel subscriptions, just as easy as it is to sign up. So there's essentially lower friction for people to cancel. So all of this, I would say, kind of created this perfect storm in essence. And when you think about cable or satellite, where it was traditionally how we consumed entertainment, there were high switching costs. So you would think about, oh my God, I have to schedule an appointment with a technician to come out. I have to pay installation fees to get all my equipment installed. You're getting locked into a contract.
There's real rip and replace costs, right?
Yep. You get the
switch.
point, right? Yeah. You have to ship your old equipment back. So when you're thinking about this from a consumer lens, there was this almost ingrained loyalty because of the high switching cost, right? You stayed with DirecTV, or you stayed with Dish Network, or whatever your service provider was at the time, Charter, because of that high switching cost. But now with SVOD services, we're making it really easy for consumers to sign up, but also cancel. So, and likely without commitments. So when you think about that, that low switching cost kind of emphasizes the ability for consumers to churn and burn and then sign up when they want to. So when you're thinking about growth, while it's still important to hit the profitability, people were starting to get hit with frequent price increases with the SVOD services as well, right? As people were cutting the cord, they're starting to replace those with multiple SVOD subscription services, and those costs start adding up. And as you have 6 services, you start seeing price increases across all of them, it starts to hit the wallet a bit. Consumers start doing the math and adding it up and saying, okay, well, what can I cut, right? And sometimes entertainment's one of the first to go. So that really created the moment where, again, consumers are constantly evaluating their wallets to see if price matches what the value they're seeing in their service. And if not, a cancellation request is incoming.
Yeah. And we see that in SaaS too. Even in B2B, it's an easy, if there's not that, especially if there's not that high switching costs, if a certain vendor if there's not perceived value, then there's absolutely that shift into a different vendor. Yeah. So it was kind of the task at hand. Like, how did you mentioned you had these big trends that you were seeing just on a macro scale that were then trickling down and influencing your particular industry. Like, what did you do once you realized you were in that situation?
Yeah. Before I dive into that, have you heard of the leaky bucket?
Oh, yes. Yeah. But let's like talk through it. Talk through it for our listeners.
Yeah. So imagine trying to fill a bucket with water, but it has holes at the bottom, right? You'll never be able to fill that bucket unless you plug the holes. So in this metaphor, the bucket's your business, the water are your subscribers or your customers, and the holes are churn, right? So how do you plug the leaky bucket? And to our earlier point, even with the powerful fandom of Disney, we still experience subscriber churn. And that was a problem that needed to be solved. So we knew we had the loyal Disney fans, right? The ones that pass it on to their kids, and it keeps going. The people that go to Disneyland ritually, right? But we also had those casual fans that maybe only resonated with maybe a few titles that were on service or a few of the franchises. I'm a prime example. I'm really only interested in Star Wars content. I didn't tell anyone at Disney that. And maybe some National Geographic content. But these audiences are more likely to churn in between those content troughs that I spoke to earlier.
Right. Oh, I'll come back when Mandalorian comes back.
Exactly. And, when you think about these audiences, the loyal and the casual fan, there's opportunities in both to improve retention. So the question we asked ourselves was, how can we leverage loyalty and harness the synergies of the Walt Disney Company as a retention tactic to plug a few of the holes? We knew this wasn't going to solve everything, but even just a small reduction in churn had huge financial benefits for the company.
I love that you thought about okay, well, what is the big perceived value that Disney offers as a brand, not necessarily just the product of Disney Plus, and then leveraging that differentiator and seeing how can we kind of bring all this together. So, okay, what did this look like? Like you had these big macro trends. You then, know how you're going to move forward with somehow leveraging the broader value that Disney offers. So walk me through the action that you took and how you actually put this into play. Great.
So I would say the first thing we wanted to do is really identify the problem. We talked a little bit about it, right? Around yes, there's this churn problem, which essentially was how do we reduce subscriber churn? We then looked at the data to determine what is that leading indicator for voluntary churn. Why are people canceling? You can probably give a guess at what it was. I think, again, as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of price sensitivity, price value. So price was technically something that really stood out for us as we were looking at the data. So we said, okay, well, we can't reduce the subscription price. That's Wall Street will never allow that. So how can we just infer that there's this imbalance of price to value perception? And how can we increase that value of our subscription to justify the price that they're paying? Our hypothesis was that by introducing subscriber rewards as part of their subscription, we could reduce churn for the treated population, or essentially those that are actually redeeming the rewards, but also on the broader landscape of just the subscriber base in general, just knowing that we offer this type of program, there was this halo effect, or not as impactful as somebody redeeming a redeeming a reward, but also the ability to like know that that's available to them. There's this halo effect that we assumed we would see as well. So after that, we conducted broad research. So we looked at existing Disney Plus subscribers and non-Disney Plus subscribers, because we also felt like there may be like an acquisition lens here as well, to really understand the types of rewards and benefits that each of these specific audiences would like to see or they would see value in. And that step was really imperative for the development of the program strategy, because we want to ensure that we were building something that consumers actually wanted and not just building something that we think they wanted. So we wanted to make sure everything we did was backed by data and insights. It was really interesting to see the research, which it pointed out, I mean, it's not a game changer for folks that are in the loyalty space. They know people like free access, early access, freebie, sweepstakes, gamification elements. So think about like badge journeys. So, hey, I complete The Mandalorian and I get a badge. I unlock something. And of course, discounts to other Disney benefits and business units like our consumer products, so all our, the Disney store or our parks, all of those definitely rose to the top. So, and then a few other third-party partner rewards also floated to the top. So people like food delivery services like Uber, the likes of DoorDash, they kind of go hand in hand with entertainment. You're watching something on the couch. Maybe I want like a buy one, get one free offer on, or free delivery or something like that on one of the food delivery subscription services. So that was great news for us, because again, one of the reasons loyalty programs fail is, one, there's like a lack of rewards. Two, the freshness of rewards, things can go stale very quickly. And then three, cost, right? Cost of procuring all of these rewards tends to get really expensive. But we saw huge opportunity for us by leveraging the synergy of the other Disney business units. We could have a large array of offers, keep them fresh, and keep our costs low. So again, taking a data-driven approach, we tested a few of those offers to validate our hypothesis before deciding to commit to a full loyalty program. Because that would be hard to walk back if we decided to launch and didn't have any indicators that this was going to be successful.
Right. Absolutely. So you took the time to really study the data to figure out, okay, well, why are some of those subscribers falling through the holes of our bucket, right? And then after you dug into that a little bit, then you tried to figure out, okay, now can we leverage the rest of what Disney has to offer in a way that matches the perceived value, that is motivating enough to keep a subscriber to stay, but then also doesn't get stale after a while. And so it feels like, ooh, something new. Ooh, something new. Oh, it's different now. Oh, so it kind of keeps the intrigue and interest, even during times when, speaking for myself, The Mandalorian may not be available. Well, that was myself before kids. Now it's like, kidding me? Disney has tremendous value.
Moana 2, all of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Every single, the entire princess collection.
Yeah. My niece, she's about to turn 2, and, my brother and sister-in-law finally allowed them to start watching TV, and she has gravitated to Moana. And it's powerful to see what like a brand can do even for a kid at such a young age.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And specifically for creating some of that loyalty, product marketers do have to lean into brand, because you can't not create a customer loyalty program without the support of the broader brand. In my opinion, those have to go hand in hand. So, okay. So let's talk about like the execution side of this. So you identified a potential solution and then you hit some crossroads. Now, it sounds like you did some of this data and now you kind of know what you want to do. Did you then you built that out yourself? Do we move faster? Do we partner externally? I guess walk me through kind of that moment and how you decided to move forward.
Yeah, I think it's important to call out that we were like in an interesting space, given that this was product marketing led, but we knew the end state was going to be a loyalty product. And as you mentioned earlier, I had the experience at DirecTV of building a loyalty product from scratch, or they like to say 0 to 1. And we knew at Disney Plus that others were starting to look at the landscape and beginning to find unique ways to drive value. And to your point, I think we had to pitch the idea to senior leaders and C-level execs at Disney. But one of the decision points was really to build it or buy it. And there's pros and cons of each, right? There's building it would take longer.
And wait, sorry, so
Sure.
to interrupt you, when you say building it, you mean like the customer loyalty program itself, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And I guess the two options, building it internally versus, hey, we're going to go and source a partner to leverage like a loyalty SaaS product and integrate. So those were kind of our two options. So the building or buying it of it. And to go back to the building part, right, we know that we're always fighting for internal resourcing. So it likely would take longer to get put on the roadmap and to build, but essentially pulling engineering resourcing away from maybe another high priority project, not making it on the roadmap at all because it was so marketing led. It's hard to fit that into a larger product roadmap. Or even if it did, it may take us years to build something because we're building a streaming product. We're not building a loyalty SaaS product. And there's also this risk of tech debt, right? Of like continuously having to allocate resourcing to improve that product that we're building internally. So
that tech debt is so real too, especially in like the broader SaaS world. So I think that would resonate a lot with a lot of PMMs who are kind of facing the like build versus buy.
Buy, exactly. There is an upside though, right? Of building something because you can build it the way you want it. You can make it uniquely Disney. You could limit the cost to essentially like a big one-time capital expenditure cost. Of course, you would have like the ongoing maintenance of that product, but you wouldn't have this like subscription model with a partner that you're constantly just hitting your bottom line. And the buy approach, right? That's another option that we weighed. The pros of it being kind of the out-of-box solutions with some level of customization so we could still make it feel somewhat Disney. It would help with speed to market, which was really important for us. We knew everyone else in the landscape was likely feeling the same pressures we were and likely exploring very similar alternatives to how
you mentioned a lot of those like macro trends, industry trends, and that plays a role in your strategy, right? Like there's a reason why you did that initial work of seeing what was happening and how that was influencing your business. It's probably influencing your competitor's business too.
Exactly. And then when you're thinking about like resource, like we can't say what's going to take zero resourcing away, even if you go with a buy solution. But the scale compared to somebody like allocating a whole Tiger team to build a product versus I need some engineers to help with some level of integration is pretty isolated. And we would have no tech debt since, again, as I stated earlier, partnering with a loyalty SaaS product, they're the subject matter experts in the field. They're continuously updating and enhancing their products, and we reap the benefits of that. And the cons is kind of the complexity of integrating with a partner. I think you're in the SaaS space, it's never an easy of a flip of a switch, sadly. So that was something that we kept front of mind for us as we were making this decision. And also, again, not being fully customizable and just the ongoing costs. So again, pros and cons of each. For me, the decision was pretty obvious. I had my recommendation to buy versus build. Again, for me, it came down to we're an SVOD service. We're not building loyalty solutions or products for loyalty solutions, and that we should keep our engineers focused on the Disney Plus experience and allow loyalty SaaS providers to do what they do best. We needed the speed of market. We wanted to be the first mover in the space. And ideally, we wanted to tout that we were the first in the streaming landscape to launch such an initiative as loyalty. So when we think about sharing this with leadership, I feel like it was very contentious. A lot of leaders at Disney wanted the build route. There was a lot of ways we were going with even just different internal tools of building those internally. But ultimately, we aligned that buy was the best decision for the spot we were at currently. So we kicked off the RFP, request for proposal, for those that don't know the acronym, to a lot of loyalty SaaS providers. I think the list was like 50 long. And I ensured to ensure it was very collaborative because it was still product marketing led, but I wanted to assemble a Tiger team, marketing, data analytics, product engineering, you name it, to really sit in on those conversations and watch the demos so we could make a unified decision on who the best partner would be. I didn't want to do it in a vacuum. And this is one of the only times an initiative this large was being led by the marketing organization. And that created some tension again at the top between marketing and product leadership of should this be product led or marketing led? And we ultimately landed that it best fit letting marketing continue to lead in close collaboration with the rest of the teams for integration.
I am so glad that it ended up being product marketing owning the project. I mean, one, because then you can come on here and talk about it, but also because I have always felt that a product marketer's job, when we like really like oversimplify it maybe, is to take context outside from the market, from our customers, from our competitors, and then bring it back in to drive strategy. And that's really what this was. It's a big strategic initiative, and I think it's spot on to have PMM own it. But I do think a lot of product marketers probably struggle with that. Like this kind of initiative, at least in the SaaS world, would very often fall within like, there's a whole team who's responsible for customer marketing or customer loyalty. And I'm curious, was there like a customer loyalty or customer marketing team within Disney Plus, or was it all just kind of within product marketing?
It was all within product marketing. We had different parts of the business, like life cycle marketing, that would do, the outreach and the emails and push notifications. But there wasn't this centralized force or organization or business unit, whatever you want to call it. Product marketers were that team. So I had a team of 6 people, a mix of product managers and product marketers that were assembled to lead this initiative. So
I love that. It's the cross-functional team. It's good that everyone kind of aligned on that. Okay. So this was such a strategic moment for you and for your career. And especially now where I think product marketers not only are they fighting with each other with this like, in the world of AI that we are all immersed in, but like also fighting with AI of, build versus buy my product. So let's not go down that rabbit hole. But I think this is such a timely conversation around how to retain your customers and to meet that perception of value. So let's turn this into a playbook. Let's say that, you're coaching me I'm a totally different industry, not streaming entertainment business, but I have this problem where there are market dynamics at play where I'm starting to see churn within certain segments of my business. What do I do to try to build up a retention or a loyalty program? Like, what's step one?
Yeah, I would say step one is understanding your customer cancellation behavior and the value perception there. Do your research, whether it's partnering with your data analytics team, your customer service teams, customer success teams,
customer support teams, even.
Customer support, yeah, exactly. Or outside research. Ideally, it would be a combination of all three, so you can get a comprehensive 360-degree view of customer pain points, qualitative, quantitative data to really inform your problem statement and form your hypothesis.
Yeah. So like I could see myself doing something like pulling CRM data to try to figure out if there was like a reason for cancellation, sourcing support tickets. Like, okay, did out of all of these particular customers who canceled, had they submitted support tickets, had they, kind of like what are all of these possible data sources in front of me that I can dig into to better understand what caused the cancellation. And then even going as far as like having just an interview conversation with them. Harder to do in the consumer world, but in B2B, it's a bit easier to have those kinds of conversations.
You'll be surprised how many customers are actually willing to give feedback.
Oh, good. Yeah, I would imagine it would just be hard to have a one-on-one with a consumer.
And there's different touch points. I mean, speaking from experience, again, we've seen people calling into customer support just to give a recommendation of a product feature enhancement that's then tracked by customer support and fed back to product marketing and product. We have surveys that go out that are a little bit more quantitative or focus groups. You know what I mean? People are so willing to give feedback, which I find is very astounding and super helpful for product marketers.
I love that. I'm going to rattle off a couple other things that kind of come to my mind when I think about like studying like reasons why consumers cancel, especially like just to kind of touch for my like B2B SaaS marketers. I think sourcing sales call scripts too, transcripts to see like what's kind of like happening there. Maybe even like before it gets to the cancellation point. So going back in history and figure out, okay, how did we get to this point? They clearly were a customer at one point, but somehow we lost them. So how did we get from A to B? So picking maybe like a few marquee customers that you lost and trying to follow their entire customer journey. Like where was it starting to fall off? and any resources you have at your disposal to kind of guide you through that historic journey, I think would be super valuable as well. Okay. So step one was to understand why your customers are canceling to begin with. So what's next? What's step two?
I would say double click into that data and start identifying some of those different customer loyalty profiles or audiences. I think you named it, like looking at some of those marquee folks can help create like lookalikes, right? And when you start thinking about those insights from step one and identifying those audiences, you can do that depending on your resourcing. But at Disney, luckily, we had some advanced modeling, people that are way smarter than me as it relates to data, where you can start seeing their behaviors and see how they engage or lack thereof with your product or service. For us, we identified, again, the loyal Disney fans who had really high engagement on Disney Plus and a lower propensity to churn, meaning less likelihood to churn, another fancy way to say that. And then the casual fans, so that low to medium engagement on Disney Plus and a higher propensity to churn. And we found that, hey, the latter is really going to be our target audience, but still understood that the loyal Disney fans would be secondary to that, just to continue fostering that strong connection between the consumer and the brand, because they are our biggest advocates. So again, double clicking into the data and start creating some of these audiences or personas that you can then say, okay, these are the people, these are our target audiences that we're going after, and here's how we can tackle that.
Yeah. So it's like classic segmentation. Like, okay, of all of our subscribers, including the ones we churn, this is interesting because you're applying basically a practice or exercise of segmentation that you would normally apply to basically the broader market, but instead you're hyper focusing it on specifically your customers, your paying customers, and then doing the segmentation to figure out like degrees of loyalty and reasons and value perceived behind each of those, so that as you're building out, I'm guessing where this is going, as you're building out the actual program itself, you can prioritize which of those segments are going to see the biggest return on that loyalty program.
Nail on the head. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
I'm learning. I'm taking notes for my next loyalty program. I've never built one. So, okay. So then what's step three after I do this like mini segmentation double click on customer data internally?
Yeah. And this might be a little easier on the direct to consumer side, but when you think about loyalty, I think it's important to think about it beyond just the core product experience. We like to think around product enhancements to improve loyalty and retention, saying like, oh, this feature is going to create less friction, therefore it's going to generate loyalty and retention. And while that's true, we knew that there was a price value issue and consumers wanted more value for the price that they were paying. And after the research, we started to test specific offers to those specific audiences, right? Being able to segment the casual fans had very different wants and needs than the Disney loyal fans. So being able to test and validate our hypothesis with different rewards was super helpful and insightful for us. At the end of the day, our hypothesis was validated, but I do want to be clear that, we still needed to make sure that whatever we were building was still heavily attributed back to streaming. So although we were giving rewards that may be outside Disney Plus, like, hey, we get free tickets to go to the parks or win a sweepstakes for a National Geographic cruise, it was always tied back to Disney Plus. It was unlock this as a subscriber, right? We wanted that attribution because at the end of the day, we didn't want to end up in the consumer's mind of like, why is Disney Plus offering this? This is so odd. So there had to be this correlation back to the Disney Plus service. So all of that was top of mind for us.
Yeah. So I'm kind of translating. I'm trying to strip out like the context and like translate it back to like if I'm like in SaaS, that if I'm looking at this particular customer segment and I'm understanding like what is the perceived value, like let's take away the monetary value for a minute and like actual business outcomes. Like what are they trying to get out of using my product? And take the spirit of that and then try to understand what else can I offer them that can validate what they're trying to get out of my product or offering. and now put that monetary dollar amount back in. Be like, okay, so it was just this that you were trying to get from being a subscriber. And you like this. Now I'm going to give you all these other things. And it doesn't, it offsets my cost for XYZ reasons, but you're still paying the same amount, but you have all of these other opportunities that just kind of validate the reasons why you became a subscriber in the first place. That's kind of how I'm imagining it. Is that kind of the right way to think about it?
Exactly. Yeah. And some interesting findings that we saw, I just want to loop back around to an example is, we had National Geographic content on service. We partnered with that team for, it was I think a 7-day cruise to the Galapagos Islands, which is one really cool. I wish I could have won that sweepstakes.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Right. And it was really interesting to see that, one, we had a really high level of entries, but second to that, we saw a huge increase in National Geographic content being watched on service. So there's this, even though we're thinking beyond the core product experience as far as rewards, it was tying back to business objective of higher engagement on platform, which then ultimately reduces churn as well. Yeah.
Right. I love that. So again, I'm going to repeat what you said that step 3 was, to think beyond the core product experience. And again, if I'm thinking of how this would apply in a SaaS world, maybe beyond that product experience doesn't necessarily come from your partner, from your internal company, but maybe it's a business partner. So I'm even imagining if there are particular industries or use cases where you go to market with a particular partner, maybe there's ways that you can add partners into the mix to increase that perceived value.
Exactly.
So I really like that step of as you're thinking about crafting the actual loyalty program itself, to think beyond that core product experience. Okay. So what's the next step here?
I would say the next step is, this one is probably the most crucial, is just evaluating speed, resources, and your strategic differentiation. So I'll keep this one short because I know we just spoke at length about this already, but I do think it's important to weigh all your possible options, since no business is the same. Does it make sense for you to launch a loyalty program? The answer is not always yes. But again, we're all fighting for resourcing. We're always up against the clock to ship something. And what are the trade-offs for any decision you make? Do you have a set date that needs to be launched by? Is it driven by leadership, right? Have they set a date that you need to meet? That's all going to impact your decisions. Is it aligning to a larger brand moment? Or is the desire, what Disney Plus was, kind of be the first mover in this space? All of these are different forces that are kind of going to help you make the right decision. Do you have the resources internally to build something and maintain it? Do you have the funds and the commitment from leadership, right? Is this a top-down alignment, or do you need to create that top-down alignment, which is critical in order to be successful? Leadership needs to be bought in. So again, all of these questions need to be answered, but you don't need to do it in a silo. Again, collaboration across the organization is so important. One, you get buy-in, but most importantly, number 2, you ensure that there aren't any blind spots in your decision. So you'll be surprised about how many partners we evaluated. I was like, oh yeah, this is the one. Let's sign it tomorrow. And, it came down to an engineering spoke up and was like, we're not going to be able to integrate with them. This would be impossible. And having those people in the room that are looking at it from a different lens was so critical. And again, for us, it came down to speed to market, limited resourcing, and competing with company priorities. So, again, that was kind of all of that.
Yeah.
And that kind of culminated into the decision. But again, evaluating speed, your resourcing, and then how are you going to differentiate yourself with the competition? How are you going to make your program unique?
So those are the way that I'm imagining your entire playbook built out. Here's how I'm thinking about it. Let me know if this jives with you. I'm thinking your step 1 was to just get immersed in the research, think, why are you seeing churn, etc. Step 2 was okay, then that was that segmentation analysis of your existing customers. And then step 3 was to think beyond the core product experience as you're trying to dream out okay, what does this loyalty program actually look like? I feel like your step 4 is actually in parallel to all of that. It's like, it's all of that wrapped up in like the true go-to-market strategy for this particular loyalty program. How I would do this would be like your step 4 is kind of happening simultaneously as you're doing all those other 3 steps, right? Like, and you create that tiger team as you talked about doing at Disney, right? Like you create that tiger team and you're coming together with the analysis that you're doing, and you're having checkpoints, you're doing feedback loops, like kind of constantly as you're doing some of that analysis. And especially for the dreaming up, like your step 3, I could imagine that being so valuable to have like someone from product, someone from customer lifecycle marketing, someone from engineering, like everyone who would be part of bringing this loyalty program to the world could help enhance all of those, like your step 1 through 3. What do you think of that? Like, is that something that you'd recommend that I do?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think this is all kind of the build up to that moment. But I think there's like another step we're also missing is like the execution, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's all great, right? I think
minor things.
Yeah, just minor things, right? I mean, your program's only going to be as successful as your execution, and I think that's another important step to consider. Because I know we talked a lot about like the building of the program.
To be fair, I did ask you how to build it. To be fair,
but I think it would be amiss for us not to talk about this. Like step 5 essentially is like execution. And I can't come up with like a fancier title for this step, which you could probably do. But I think that's something that we notice too, is you could have the best strategy in the world, but if you lack execution, that's where something can fail. So being really cognizant and have a plan in place, not only what's your program strategy, but how do you position this in the marketplace?
Yeah.
How do you message it? And how do you kind of keep the lights on after your launch, right? So just some things to think about. Maybe that could be a whole nother episode of
absolutely.
After you build it, how do you market it?
Yeah, we should do a part 2. Okay, I want to ask you a few questions before we move on to the next segment. So I would be remiss not to ask about this. So this program that you built at Disney Plus was a pre-AI, for the most part, initiative. How do you think about customer loyalty programs and managing customers' expectations, like in the new world that we're in today with AI just kind of like bombarding us on a daily basis?
Every which way.
Yes.
I love it though. I will say AI is really enabling us to move faster and personalize experiences better than ever before. And I like to think of like pre-AI loyalty programs or experiences in general, like static images. They're fixed, they're one size fits all, probably a bit passive. And then AI kind of transforms it all. Like you're now in this like live adaptive experience where things are like responding to your actions. It's more personalized and it's constantly evolving and like learning based off of your input and output. It really just enables us to build something that's a little bit more dynamic and custom. So like my experience, like if I could do this all over again post AI, I would love to have something that's very tailored to that individual person. So, Elle, you could log in to Disney Plus and get a whole different experience than if I logged into Disney Plus, the program or even the experience in general. And I don't know, it's just truly remarkable the pace at which AI is helping evolve product experiences. And I know AI had a bad rap for like a minute. People are just
I think
what
it
is
still
this
kind of
thing?
has a bad rap, but it also has a very hopeful,
Exactly.
reputation, I would say.
Yeah, I think if it's done right, and there's guardrails in place,
guardrails for sure. Yeah,
I do see this consumer mental model shift of starting to see the value in AI, and it's helping their everyday life or just making things more one-to-one, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm thinking about it, like just the way consumer behavior is changing with AI, right? Like now we are bringing a lot more context to our digital footprint when we use some of these LLMs, for example. So leveraging just that behavior of consumers, and how does that influence the way that they behave then with your product in particular? And how can you take that context and create an experience or a loyalty program that is best fit with that one-to-one subscriber that you mentioned?
Exactly. Yeah. You think about
really
like
like
logging in, because I mean, right now we're going to offer this offer to everyone that logs in. It now could be, we're offering this, what is the saying? Right offer to the right person at the right time is essentially where we want to get to. And I think AI helps enable that.
Yeah, that's been a phrase that I've heard as a product marketer for a while now, but I think it's something that we're constantly trying to improve on.
Exactly.
So it's kind of exciting to see how it can go with guardrails and like in a non-creepy way, of course.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're at Netflix now. So what lessons from this playbook are you taking with you in your role at Netflix?
Honestly, so many learnings. As product marketers, our primary stakeholders are product managers for the most part. So I think for me, it's just really being able to understand the why behind something, like working upstream to help shape and drive product strategy based on consumer research and audience analysis. I think it's so important to really have a seat at the table upstream to, again, drive that product strategy. We aren't just about go-to-market. I think it's so important to be part of that early product development, giving feedback on designs, in product copy, just ensuring that we're building something our consumers actually want. And at the end of the day, like when we're part of that upstream and we understand the product in its entirety, it makes it so much easier for us as product marketers to position it later on and message that to drive the adoption and usage of that. One other thing I was thinking about is really the what we talked around like beyond the core product experience. Again, sometimes PMs are just so focused on shipping new features or enhancements for the product that they're working on that sometimes they don't really have a pulse on the strategies outside of the product. For example, how can we as PMMs drive value through other important moments during a customer lifecycle stage? For example, highlighting features to drive adoption and usage that may have like lost priority. Like maybe it was a feature that was built 2 years ago. We had a huge launch and it's super valuable to the company, but kind of like lost priority. So how does PMM step in and say, hey, how can we continue advancing usage of this feature, build awareness, drive adoption that ultimately drives business outcomes? Again, we want to highlight all the great work that our product teams do. And I don't know, we just have to start thinking about things like at Netflix, right? What's beyond content? That's something that I keep thinking about here at Netflix. We have such a strong content slate. And if you look at any advertisement around Netflix, it's very content focused, right? Yeah. It's Stranger Things, it's Wednesday. But there is so much work that our product teams do to make our Netflix members have such a delightful experience when they're opening the application and using it. And I think it's a big opportunity for us to see how do we start marrying product innovation with content narratives, whether it's through advertisements or even just some of our messaging and positioning within the product and off-service marketing. So just some things I'm thinking about is like, again, to recap, one, sitting within like a product management space with loyalty programs, I think helps me a lot. Just understanding the ins and outs of what I'm going to market eventually. And then two, just ensuring that I'm thinking holistically beyond just the product experience.
Yeah, that's so powerful the way that you described that. And it reminds me of something that I heard. I can't remember who I got it from. Some other product marketing influencer voice would talk about how product marketers are responsible for deeply understanding what it is about your product that is truly remarkable. to your target audience. And it sounds like that's some of the work that you're doing, like beyond just content, as you said. Like, what about, maybe it's a feature, maybe it's a certain product experience that isn't necessarily consuming content, but maybe it's something else that's just a delightful feature that kind of like captures the loyalty, the retention, et cetera. So exactly. I really appreciate that thought. Yeah. Okay. My last question for you on this topic, James, what's one last piece of advice you have for a PMM who is in the midst of building a customer loyalty program?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think I touched on it lightly before, but I would say don't fall for the fallacy of build it and they will come. Do the upfront work of identifying the problem through research, data analysis, come up with a hypothesis, validate that hypothesis through testing, and then develop a loyalty program strategy. Just ensuring that it doesn't feel transactional, but emotional. It's tied to the brand. That's really the sweet spot. And again, as I stated earlier, you may find that loyalty is probably not going to move the needle for you. And it's okay to say, hey, this isn't going to move the needle, and maybe this isn't our best option. But you have to have that discipline to look at the data and say, okay, this is going to work, or we want to continue testing before we're agreeing to something. Again, this is just to really ensure that what you're building is what your customers say that they want. Again, and the work doesn't stop when you launch. The likelihood of you getting everything within your first launch, like the wish list essentially for MVP, is not likely. So you're going to have to constantly evaluate results, improve where you can based on insights, customer feedback, all of that fun stuff. But yeah, just be very aware of the build it and they will come fallacy, and just make sure that there's data that's backing up the justification to move forward.
Yeah, I love that. And something that, as you were talking, what made me think of is that, like, sometimes reward programs don't have to be so like transactional feeling, especially with, I'll say the hopefulness that we have around with AI. It can feel more like relational intelligence, and remembering that there's a person behind the screen who is interacting with your product, and the closer you can get to the one-on-one feeling is probably going to feel a little bit more, the customer will feel more understood and, eager, willing to stick around.
Agreed. Yeah. And just to add to that, I think you hit on an important point of this emotional relationship, right? I think what we launched when I was there was very MVP. Like, this was like bare bones, let's get something out. The ideas for the future of this program are out of this world. It'll take some time to get there, but I know that the team that is now leading it, I'm very close with them. They're doing a fantastic job of getting it to that vision that we had early on. I can't wait for everyone to follow it. We
should bring them on.
I know.
We should bring them on and have like a part 2. We can do like a 3-person interview. You can kind of like recap the early days, the vision, and then they can kind of chime in. Okay, I love it. We're going to do it. All right. So now it's time for the next segment of our show. This is the messaging critique. This is where, as product marketing experts, we get to analyze real world messaging. And the fun part is, James, as the guest of my show, you get to pick the company that we are critiquing today. Really quickly, I'm going to run through some ground rules. You're going to pick a company, or you have picked a company that you are the target audience, or the target audience really well, kind of makes it more fair to do a critique. And you're going to tell me what stood out to you about the messaging, something you wish the product marketer would have considered differently, and then we'll iterate a little bit on how they can take it to the next level. So
Great.
without further ado, please share the company that we are critiquing today.
So I'm going to do a full 180 on you, because I don't know if it was fair for me to critique another like entertainment provider or in the SVOD space. So I'm going to do BODYARMOR, the sports drink.
I know it. I've had it. Tell me more. Tell me more. A little bit just for our listeners, get the listeners up to speed.
Yeah. So I want to do them justice. I'm pulling from their website quickly on just like what they are, because I think a lot of people will conflate. I think there's like BODYARMOR phone cases. There's also like,
true. Yes. There's a ton of different products out there with similar names. Yeah.
So It was founded by Mike Rapole in 2011, and he went out to challenge the status quo. He was tired of outdated sports drinks and artificial ingredients, so he created BODYARMOR with a clear mission to deliver a better for you sports drink made with no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners, packed with potassium-rich electrolytes, antioxidants, and coconut water. And his ethos is choose better. And in 2021, Coca-Cola fully acquired BODYARMOR under the One Powerhouse hydration portfolio alongside Powerade. So they have quite a few products, but I wanted to hone in on BODYARMOR Light, which is the coconut water-based healthy sports drink with the no artificial dyes and only 25 calories. I'm a big calorie counter.
Yeah. So walk us through, like what are they doing really well?
This one was hard for me, honestly. Sorry. It's
no, it is hard. Yeah.
If you were to visit their site, they tend to have individual pages for each of their product. Their hero page is talking about one of their newer releases, which is like, I would say probably combating or competing with that of like Celsius. But if you were to like look at this, their larger positioning or messaging, they're leaning heavily into the ethos that I mentioned previously.
That choose better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rewrite your routine. And for me, I mean, I liked that. I assume they're trying to convey of like, hey, switch up your routine, choose a better sports drink. I think healthier is implied here, but I don't know. It was kind of hard for me. Like, I know their target audience is, probably athletes, people that want a healthier option, like myself.
Yeah, probably people who are like somewhat health conscious, who exercise on a regular basis, who care about having, a drink with electrolytes, but maybe who get frustrated by having things like artificial dyes. I'm constantly looking at labels to see ingredients and things like artificial or added sweeteners and stuff. I'm like, it's usually a pass for me, but I still want a lot of that.
Exactly.
Or maybe
the flavor.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like an alternative to coconut water, right? Like could be something like maybe a similar, like an adjacent audience, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay. So what they're doing really well maybe is like starting to capture some of that with that, it seems a little bit like aspirational, a bit like choose better, like hopeful, encouraging. So like as you kind of think through that, on the flip side of that, then what do you wish the PMM would have considered differently? I don't even know if they have PMMs, but let's assume that they do. They probably have just like a brand team or like an agency, but
that sounds like a brand slogan.
It does. Yeah.
I guess a little quick backstory. So I came across this at Costco last year. And
Me too.
It's part of our shopping list. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's part of our shopping list. I'm very sad when it's not there. Somebody probably forgot to place the order. But it's for the messaging for me, it falls a bit flat. Like as an avid consumer, if I saw this, like I just always think about a billboard. Like you have like 3 seconds to capture an audience, right? If you're like driving down a freeway or something. So if I saw this in a picture of a billboard, I always think of it in that way. I would just think it was another sports drink. If it was that and it said choose better, rewrite your routine. For me, I would be like, oh, well, why would I go with this? I'll just drink Powerade or some other sports drink.
Maybe not quite motivating enough. Like, because it seems
or not
like
of context.
Yeah. Because it seems like the choose better, rewrite your routine. It's definitely punchy, but it's almost like it's kind of missing the like why. Like it's not. And maybe it's there in some contexts, and like, no, we just haven't seen it. But sorry, I'll let you kind of keep talking.
Oh, good. I do know they like list a lot of the ingredients on the bottle itself, where it's like no artificial dyes, but it's hard for somebody to see, right? Like there's some intent there that you're curious to see what this is, but you need to first create that awareness of like what this is to even pick up the bottle. And like for me, I think choose better, like to your point, like what am I choosing better? I'm not sure. And, how am I going to rewrite my routine by doing this? For me, it's like, it's more fulfilling a need at the moment because I need to quench my thirst. So I think the routine is a bit of a stretch. I don't know. For me, that's not landing. But
I wonder if maybe they're kind of getting at or hinting to people who have their go-to, right? Because Body Armor, because they came a little bit later to the sports drink conversation, they're probably trying to wedge themselves into an audience that has their like go-to drink that they buy. Like you now have Body Armor on your standard, Costco purchase list. Other people probably have like whether it's Powerade or Gatorade or whatever it is. Yeah. I wonder if there's like that's kind of what they're hinting at, but theirs is the like healthier quote unquote alternative. Okay, so what do you think they could do to take it to the next level? What would you like to see them? How could you imagine that they like really take off with their differentiation?
Yeah. So I'm like not a copywriter by trade, but I think it could be something more compelling around, pure hydration without the fake stuff you can't pronounce. Like kind of like being a little cheeky about it, like poke fun at the competition. Or even like, I think the coconut water is a huge differentiator.
I didn't even know that. And I've consumed a lot of Body Armor.
Yeah, it's coconut water. So it's like, coconut water sports drink, no fake stuff, 25 calories. Like for me, that would catch my eye. One, I'm really not a fan of coconut water, but I know how helpful it is for hydration. It just, for me, I can't do the taste, but to know that something is like mango based and like coconut water with 25 calories, like for me, that would really draw my attention and make me want to learn more. Yeah. I feel like there needs to be more emphasis on that healthy. Conscious.
I could totally picture them like diving deep into the like, just being a little bit more bold and aggressive with like focusing on like what you said, the fake stuff that you can't pronounce.
Yep.
That's that is something that I do. It's huge. I can't tell you how many times I'm at the grocery store and I look at the back of a label, and if it's got something weird that I can't pronounce, unless it's something that is a must-have in my household, I don't buy it. I put it back. Yeah. So if that is a characteristical behavior of their target audience, that could be something that they lean into. You know what I'm realizing in your answer and your suggestion for how they can take it to the next level, it really mirrors some of the activity that you did as you're building out a customer loyalty program, is to dig in and to look deeper on the value that, like, to look at your existing customer base and understand the perceived value, do some of that research, like build out some of that segmentation of your existing customers, and then try to take it to the next level in that way. And maybe they have done some of that, but I was just kind of drawing out the parallels that I was seeing between your style in particular that I think is, very helpful. Clearly a successful one.
Full circle moment.
Yes, totally. Okay. Well, shout out to Body Armor and any Body Armor marketers out there. You've definitely got some fans. I've definitely consumed a lot of Body Armor. So, all right. So James, there's one thing that I like to make space for on this podcast, and that is a moment of gratitude. We truly do not get anywhere in product marketing in general, honestly, without learning from each other. So I'm so grateful that you have taken the generosity and time to come on and share your expertise on the show. So thank you so much. And I would love to turn around to you and hear some shout outs for some PMMs who have brought you to this moment and contributed to the awesome PMM that you are today.
Thank you, one, for having me. So thankful. This could be an Oscar moment for me because you're going to start playing the music. But as I'm reading off my note card.
Let's do it. Yeah.
But there's been so many amazing product marketers I've worked with. I started off my career at AT&T in 2012. Kyle Riley Johnston, he was the leader at Disney Plus for global product marketing. Bright, servant leader. He's one that really kind of truly kicked off my product marketing career at AT&T. So major kudos to him. my fellow and past PMMs, especially the ones at Disney Plus, whether you're on my team or a colleague or a leader. The job is never easy. We're always like, I've seen such talent on the team, and it's not easy whenever you're establishing a new function or you're having to constantly prove your value, and a battle for a seat at the table. So just everyone that's a product marketer, I give you major kudos and hats off to you. And finally, I want to make sure I mention my folks at Netflix. I've been here for it'll be a year in July, but the talent here is out of this world. And I'm just grateful every day to work alongside such stunning colleagues. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, I love it. There's nothing like the relationships that you make when you're like just in the thick of it with something just really hard to do in your professional life, and just having, those homies that that get you through it and then obviously teach you along the way. So, okay, this is my last question for you. Where else is it best to access your expertise? Can we just find you on LinkedIn?
Yes, LinkedIn is probably the best spot. I'm pretty active on there, at least when I try to be. My wife isn't crazy. Yeah. So send me a request and we can connect.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, James. And hey, PMM listeners, if you like this episode, please share it with a PMM friend. And I would be so grateful if you would leave us a review. It helps tremendously with our reach. Thank you so much for coming on this adventure with us today. I hope this episode leaves you with inspiration to take in the next step of your own journey.